The following is a sports presentation of the University of Nebraska's radio station, your home for continuous coverage of the Nebraska Cornhuskers. 90.3 KRNU, Lincoln, Nebraska.
For Husker Countdown, I'm Ryan Swanigan, and it's homecoming, which signals the real start to the season. Big Ten play has been something fierce for Nebraska in 3 years. Though the Huskers are 18-8 all-time against the Big Ten, it seems that the minority voice their opinions louder regarding those 8 losses. Nevertheless, the Big Red have done rather well to this point, and now, at the height of a 4-0 start to the year, the official challenge begins. There's also something else that starts tonight under the lights, the drive for the college football playoff. It seems no one, not even Husker Nation, is daring to talk about it. All eyes are on Florida State, Oregon, Alabama, and even Oklahoma. But don't count out Nebraska's chances. For the respect of the superstitious, however, we'll leave the playoff talk alone. For we all know Bo Pelini would like everything to stay just the way it is for the Scarlet and Cream, out of the spotlight and focusing on one game at a time. We do the same here at Husker Countdown, so cue up the music. It's primetime football once again in Lincoln this evening, and right now, it's time for Husker Countdown.
O'Brien takes the snap, going to hand off the ball, and he's going to be hit in the backfield and taken down. There's actually a fumble on the play, and Nebraska recovers. That's Harvey Jackson on the recovery, and the Huskers should get out of this one with a win.
Martinez takes the handoff, gives it up to Amani Cross up the middle, and touchdown Nebraska. They will push this to a 1-point game and a tie game pending a PAT from Brett Maher. Oh my, how things can change so quickly.
Martinez staying in the shotgun, 3 wide receivers to his right. He gets the snap, steps back, looking downfield. He's got a man deep. He's throwing to Kenny Bell. It's wide open at the 10. Makes a catch, 5-4, dives for the end zone. Touchdown, Nebraska. Huge play from Martinez to Kenny Bell. 32-yard pass, and Nebraska takes the lead with 13-17 left.
Now, live from the top floor of the press box at Memorial Stadium, with all the game day coverage you need to get ready for Nebraska Cornhusker football, 90.3 KRNU is proud to present Husker Countdown.
We welcome you to the final regular season home football game of the month of September for this 2014 season. As I said, it is also homecoming. And we welcome you, those of you tuning in on 90.3 KRNU and online at krnu.unl.edu. Welcome to Lincoln. Ryan Swanigan, Brent Bonfleur, Hunter Cave, and Sidney Boyd all with you here to talk about Nebraska and Illinois as the Huskers finally begin Big Ten play this evening. Before we get to that, quick note immediately right out of the gate to start off the show. David Santos out for today. He is expected back next week for when Nebraska heads to East Lansing to take on the Michigan State Spartans. Hunter Cave, I think you know a little bit more about this than I do with as far as what the injury is, and also just give us your thoughts on how that affects the Nebraska defense.
Yes, earlier this week in practice, David Santos tweaked his knee a little bit. He'll be out for this game. He is expected back next week against Michigan State. It'll be important for Nebraska to find a decent replacement, possibly Zaire Anderson, possibly Josh Banderas, whoever can fill in that spot best, because despite Santos's boneheaded play against Fresno State, where he knocked a punt out of the back of the end zone, he did play very, very well against Miami. Led the team in tackles with 10 tackles, as well as having a very important momentum-shifting interception when Miami was driving down the field. Obviously a playmaking linebacker. It'll be important for Nebraska to find a replacement.
Brent, let's switch to Amir Abdullah. Earlier this week with, I guess, if you want to say some advice, some people would say it could also be some criticism of Jameis Winston earlier in the week, specifically on Monday. Your thoughts about that?
Yeah, well, Jameis Winston and Amir Abdullah, they've known each other for years. They went to camps and they trained together, weightlifted together. They're both from the state of Alabama. That's where they met. And, he told reporters on Monday, and this is a quote from Amir Abdullah, it's kind of hard for me to understand what's going on with him right now, but from a general standpoint, it's the maturity level. Think before you act, understand the bigger picture. Everything that you do say or how you present yourself can have dire consequences. That's something I feel like he definitely needs to assess more. What more can you really say? I think Florida State's coaching staff very much appreciates Amir Abdullah saying that, because obviously Jameis Winston does not fear wrath from his coaching staff, from his own team, even from law enforcement, it seems like. Maybe when his peers, his friends like Abdullah start saying the same things, maybe he'll listen.
Certainly see what happens with that. Sydney Boyd, the book is officially closed on non-conference play, as of course Big Ten play starting tonight with Illinois. What do we learn on the offensive side of the ball for Nebraska in non-conference play?
Sure, they're a fundamentally sound team, and I think with the injuries that they experienced, and that, kind of put them back a little bit. And, Armstrong needs to be more consistent especially during conference play, more than he has been. They have had 3 turnovers and forced 5. No glaring mistakes, minus, a few here and there that are, maybe put him in a light that makes him look more inconsistent than he actually is. But he's a good game manager, and he's falling into the role of getting the ball to Abdullah, which is, obviously very important because he is the offensive star of the team. And I think he does understand that.
Hunter, let's switch to the defensive side of the ball. Same question, non-conference play. What did we learn from that on the defensive side of the ball?
Sydney did mention that the defense has forced 5 turnovers. We're at a +2 turnover margin, but that needs to improve as the conference schedule begins. Our defense, the Nebraska defense thus far has, while not giving up many big plays, has given up several consistently detrimental plays, I guess you could say, where they don't force many turnovers. They don't play very aggressively. The Nebraska secondary, it's almost glaringly obvious that they cover a man and they don't defend against the ball itself. It'll be important for that defense to figure out how to play aggressively, how to stop the ball from advancing rather than stopping a man from advancing, I guess, if you could look at it that way.
Brent, overall, we know where Nebraska stood going into the season. Now that we go into Big Ten play, have things changed for the better or for the worse, or are they still the same now?
Well, I think you've got to look at this Nebraska team and think that they're probably in the top 2, if not the top spot in the Big Ten right now. And certainly taking nothing away from Nebraska, they've played well all season and are undefeated, but that says a lot about the Big Ten as a conference. RPI, which basically dictates how good a conference is based on a wide number of criteria, has the Big Ten ranked 6. Okay, there's of course the top 5 power conferences: the SEC, the Pac-12, the Big 12, the Big Ten, and the ACC. Nebraska's 6. That means not only are they last among Power 5 conferences, but also they're ranked behind the independents, which is BYU, Notre Dame, and then the armed service teams. So Nebraska in the driver's seat of the Big Ten right now, but of course Illinois at 3-1 has something to say about that.
Finally, alternate uniforms this evening. Of course, my own opinion is that once again they are not the best, that Adidas didn't get it right, but nevertheless, they are out there. Got to give some credit to Illinois, though. They are down in the field. Their special teams, kicking units is out there. Shiny orange, really a burnt orange-looking helmets. Again, with the shine all over them, the white eye on both sides, white uniform tops, orange pants. Your guys' thoughts. Sydney, we'll start with you. Your thoughts on the Illinois alternate uniforms and the Huskers.
Sure. So, Illinois, I like them. They're fine. I mean, I don't know. I like the traditional uniforms. The Huskers, I am not a fan of because the Reds are different.
Hunter?
Well, I personally just like things that look cool, and I think that Nebraska's helmet looks pretty awesome. I like the different reds. I guess I was never one to match my clothes growing up. That was always Mom's job, I suppose. I do enjoy Illinois' shiny orange helmets. definitely something to look at. I feel like those helmets would actually be a little bit better for a day game when maybe you can get the sun glaring off of them. I know people hate playing Notre Dame in day games because of the way the sun glares off those golden helmets.
Notre Dame, Oregon, first time in Illinois team history that they will be playing with orange helmets as opposed to white helmets. Being the most fashionable member of the sports staff, I have to say that I would give the edge in uniforms to Illinois tonight. Huskers, I like the helmets, but overall, I think Illinois takes the uniform battle.
We will take a break. When we come back, Hunter Cave will have a really special and really awesome sounding segment with an interview that he did with former Husker national champion Ricky Simmons. That's up next here on the Husker Countdown pregame show on 90.3 KRNU and krnu.unl.edu.
Stick around. More pregame coverage is next on the University of Nebraska's radio station, 90.3 KRNU.
Driving has a rhythm all its own. Don't wreck it with a text. Before you get behind the wheel, silence your phone. Or better yet, designate a texter. For more text-free driving tips, visit stoptextstoprex.org. Brought to you by the Ad Council and the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration.
Now, back out to Memorial Stadium for more of the Husker Countdown pregame show on 90.3 KRNU.
For Husker Football Countdown, I'm Hunter Cave. In 1984, the Miami Hurricanes won the national championship after Turner Gill's two-point conversion pass dropped to the turf of the Orange Bowl to give the U a 31-30 victory over the Huskers. I had the opportunity to interview a member of that 83 Husker scoring explosion team. However, Ricky Simmons, a three-time letter winner under Coach Tom Osborne, has a story that goes much deeper than football.
I'm from Greenville, Texas originally. Came to Nebraska on a football scholarship, lettered 3 years, and I got picked up by the Atlanta Falcons. And in my first season with the Falcons, a drug addiction took over my life. I went from the NFL to prison 4 times. I went to 10 drug treatment centers. Coach Osborne wrote a letter to me when I was in prison the last time. From that point on, I turned my life around. Got out of prison, and now I'm a licensed drug and alcohol counselor and a motivational speaker, and I go all over the country speaking to youth and adults about the dangers of drug and alcohol abuse.
Before all of that happened, however, Ricky was like any other teenage boy. And like all teenage boys, Ricky knew better than everyone, especially his parents.
I had all the answers. No one could tell me nothing, especially my parents, because in my mind as a teenager, I was smarter than my parents. So I charted my own path, and that's what led me down some of the roads that I went, which weren't good for me at all.
He had lost everything, and according to Ricky himself, he had hit rock bottom. However, after that letter from Coach Osborne, Simmons finally started to pick himself up out of the dirt.
5.5 years ago, I turned it all around. I've been clean and sober 5.5 years now.
Today, he is a motivational speaker, and he uses a combination of inspiration and first-hand accounts to steer adolescents away from drugs. Of course, for Ricky Simmons, coming clean with himself years ago makes this part of his job quite enjoyable, and he doesn't accept excuses from his audience.
I really like speaking because I'm not a hypocrite. I practice what I preach. I mean, I don't drink. I don't do any drugs. I don't encourage anyone to do that. After I speak, I do not know or I didn't know is no longer an excuse for you.
When the conversation drifted towards football, Simmons gave remarkable insight to the two-point conversion call that cost the Huskers the national championship.
And we had a choice. We could kick an extra point, tie the game, probably win the national championship. But we went for 2 and didn't get it. But I'm okay with that because we didn't go down there to tie. We went to win. The fact that it didn't go our way, that's just sports.
Simmons became very close friends with the rather famous Husker and Heisman Trophy winner Mike Rozier, someone that Mr. Simmons took great pride in taking the field with.
Man, it was an honor, really, because this guy was he was a man amongst boys. He was a very physical man, and but even more a better person. He was physical on the football field, but I got a chance to know him on and off the field. I think he was an even better person than he was a football player. He was the type of guy that would always go that extra step to help someone else. If you needed something and Mike had it, it was done.
Highly talented running backs with a great work ethic and a good head on their shoulders is something the Huskers have never lacked. But with the whispers in the wind that Nebraska's current I-back Amir Abdullah could be a dark horse for the Heisman, I took the chance to ask Mr. Simmons if he thought it was even possible to compare Abdullah to such a legendary talent as Rozier.
I watch Abdullah, and this guy, he bring it every game. He come out there and give you 100% every game, and that I admire. But what I admire the most is you don't hear a lot of off-field negativity about him. He's not getting into trouble. I like that about him, man. I mean, he's like a class act, and that's the way I look at Mike, a class act. If you're out there taking care of your business on the field, you don't have to do no extra talking after the game. Your play did your talking for you during the game.
After listening to Mr. Simmons' story, it becomes very difficult to make an excuse for the situation you're in. But, as Ricky says, it's just another day in paradise. For Husker Football Countdown, I'm Hunter Cave.
Stay tuned. Husker Countdown continues next, only on 90.3 KRNU.
Everyone enjoys the great outdoors. You or someone you know can make it even more enjoyable by getting involved with the Arbor Day Foundation. The Arbor Day Foundation has grown to become the largest nonprofit membership organization dedicated to planting trees. Over 1 million members, supporters, and valued partners accompany the Arbor Day Foundation. By volunteering with the Arbor Day Foundation, you can breathe easy knowing that you're making a difference. For more information on how to get involved, call toll-free at 1-888-448-7337. That's 1-888-448-7337.
From the press box at Memorial Stadium, here's more of the Husker Countdown pregame show on 90.3 KRNU.
Welcome back to Lincoln. Ryan Swanigan, Brent Bonfleur, and Tommy Rezach now joins us to discuss the Illinois Fighting Illini, 3-1 on the season. However, Tommy, what does it say when you have close game wins to put yourself at a 3-1 record against Youngstown State, Western Kentucky, and then a comeback win against Texas State following a blowout against Washington? What does that say about this Illinois team in general?
Well, first of all, I don't think you can discredit their offense very much. Their quarterback, Wes Lunt, has been outstanding so far this year, passing for over 1,200 yards and 11 touchdowns as well. But their defense, I think, is lacking some leadership from their older players, like senior Zane Petty, Austin Tietzma, and then as well as senior star position Ernest Thomas III. These guys have pretty good numbers, like Ernest Thomas III, the senior, 4 tackles for loss and a sack, and as well as 12 solo tackles. So guys are getting after the ball carrier, but it just seems like consistency and just overall assignments and leadership is really lacking. Yeah, knowledge of assignments and just overall leadership really lacking in this defense. And they rank last in the Big Ten in scoring defense. So, yeah, I think their defense is just in chaos right now, just in a real pickle.
Brent, quarterback Wes Lunt has been pretty good so far to this point. Now, there are questions, I believe, of whether or not he will play today. Am I right in saying that?
Yes.
Yeah.
Well,
you go ahead
and
tell us.
There's questions. We're not exactly sure what the deal is. They did not come out and say that he was injured, at least to my knowledge, which perhaps means that there's some sort of disciplinary reason. He might not be starting the game tonight or playing for a portion of it. Really not sure. Like you said, he's played pretty well. He actually started his collegiate career as a freshman at Oklahoma State, got injured, lost the job there, comes to Illinois. He's pretty good. Above average is about how you would describe this guy. He's got about 1,200 yards this season, completing about 65% of his passes, 11 touchdowns to only 3 interceptions. He's got a good receiving core. Illinois is very, deep at wide receiver, and he also benefits by having Josh Ferguson, their all-purpose running back, who had some. He carved up Nebraska last year when they played the Huskers, who he can dump it off to, and that sort of boosted his stats. But all around, a pretty solid quarterback.
Tommy, how much of a threat is Josh Ferguson on the ground?
Well, he's an experienced player. He's a junior this year. Had a great game against Texas State last week in that comeback victory. 14 carries for 190 yards and a pair of scores. He's averaging 6.3 yards per carry this year. I think he's definitely one of the leaders on this team, an overall young Illini team. Quarterback Wes Lunt being only a sophomore, and then you have young receivers like freshman Mike Dudek. So, yeah, he's a good leader. I think he's averaging 6.3 yards per carry, which is about what Abdullah is averaging. Actually, Abdullah is about 6.8. So I think the Illinois offensive line needs to open up some holes for him, but that's going to be tough. Nebraska defense has been very stingy when it comes to rushing, defending against the run. Nebraska only giving up 116 rushing yards per game. So it'll be interesting to see how the Illinois offensive line responds to this overall aggressive Nebraska front seven, but he has been a big asset to the Illini offense this year.
Brent, couple of really good wide receivers for Illinois for either Wes Lunt or his backup Riley O'Toole, who has played a little bit this year. He is 4 of 5 in passing attempts, 80% completion, obviously, for 49 yards, no touchdowns or picks. But a couple of good receivers for Riley O'Toole to utilize if he ends up starting this game.
Mm-hmm. Well, Tommy just mentioned Mike Dudek, young, talented receiver. Probably, if he's not the main guy on the team yet, he definitely will be. Of course, you got a junior in Geronimo Allison. Those two are the main guys. However, as I mentioned earlier, Illinois is pretty deep with receivers. 5 total receivers with double-digit receptions this year, and I believe all of them have over 100 yards receiving. That, of course, includes Josh Ferguson, the running back. So very strong receiving core, especially for a Big Ten team. They can move the ball through the air pretty well.
Tommy, very quickly, how does this Illinois defense stack up here?
Not good, Ryan. Like I mentioned, they're dead last in Big Ten when it comes to scoring defense, giving up 32.5 points per game and 430 yards per game. I think Nebraska offense is going to move the ball fairly easily, especially on the ground against these guys, giving up almost 175 yards rushing per game. So, and then they give up on average another 320 passing yards on defense. Yeah, so they just give up a lot of points and a lot of yards on defense. I think that's why they've had barn burners against very underrated, against very big underdog teams like Youngstown State. So yeah, I think they better be on their game, or else Nebraska and Amir Abdullah is going to have a huge night.
We will take another break when we before we do, I should clarify, Ricky Simmons was not a national championship winner at his time here at Nebraska. He was close, but as I said that earlier, I was mistaken. When we come back, Tommy Rezach will talk about the past Big Ten homecoming games for the Huskers. They have been some thrillers, not exactly last year, more of a dominant performance last year for Nebraska against Illinois. But the previous two were really exciting to watch. So Tommy will have the history of that. That's coming up next here on the Husker Countdown pregame show on 90.3 KRNU.
Stay tuned. Husker Countdown will return after this break on Nebraska student radio station 90.3 KRNU. It's music, but without instruments, other than the original instrument, the human voice. It's called a cappella, and you'll find it in all styles on vocal cords. Vocal jazz, classics, rock, world music, barbershop, doo-wop from all over the world. Every Friday and Sunday morning from 8 to 10. Vocal cords, a cappella music, every weekend on 90.3 KRNU. From the press box at Memorial Stadium, here's more of the Husker Countdown pregame show on 90.3 KRNU.
For Husker Countdown, I'm Tommy Rezach. Tonight's game with Illinois marks the 104th homecoming game in Nebraska football history. Nebraska is 77-22-4 on homecoming, including a 5-1 homecoming record in the Pelini era. However, some of Pelini's homecoming games have been forgettable, like the 52-17 loss to Missouri in 2008. But ever since Nebraska joined the Big Ten, homecoming games have been anything but forgettable. Nebraska's homecoming games with Big Ten opponents have been some of the most historic games ever played in Lincoln. On October 8, 2011, Nebraska had their first homecoming game as a member of the Big Ten and were set to face the Ohio State Buckeyes. It was also the first Big Ten Conference matchup at Memorial Stadium, a historic game between historic programs. But Nebraska started out flat, and Ohio State jumped out to a 27-6 lead in the third quarter due to the outstanding performance of sophomore running back Carlos Hyde.
Hand off to Hyde across the 45-50. Carlos Hyde has nothing but green in front of him. Hyde's going to be in for the touchdown.
The momentum finally changed hands halfway through the third when Husker linebacker Levante David stripped the ball from quarterback Braxton Miller. 2 plays later, Taylor Martinez scored the first Husker touchdown.
Martinez in the shotgun. Keeps it himself up the middle. Martinez inside the 10. Touchdown Huskers!
The 18-yard touchdown scamper by Martinez pulled the Huskers within 14 points with 7:23 remaining in the third quarter. After Braxton Miller left the game with an ankle injury, the Blackshirts intercepted backup quarterback Joe Bosserman, and the Husker offense took advantage of another Ohio State turnover. Martinez found Quincy Enunwa for a 36-yard touchdown pass to make the score 27-20. Nebraska trailed by only a touchdown entering the fourth. Now it was Rex Burkhead's turn to make a play.
Martinez drops back, being pressured, throws to Burkhead out in the flat. Burkhead inside the 30. Burkhead down to the 15, to the 10, 5, and Burkhead's in for the touchdown.
The 30-yard touchdown reception tied the game at 27. After another big stop by the Blackshirts, Rex Burkhead took it upon himself to give his team their first lead.
Inside the 20, Burkhead finds a crease inside the 10. Rex Burkhead dives for the end zone. Touchdown Huskers!
That would end up being the game winner. The Huskers erased a 21-point deficit as Burkhead found the end zone on a 17-yard touchdown run to give the Huskers a 34-27 victory, the largest comeback in school history. 1 year later, it was Wisconsin's turn to play Nebraska on homecoming, but once again, Nebraska was in big trouble early on. Wisconsin running back Monte Ball and the Badger offense were off to a great start and had a 27-10 lead early in the third quarter. But Husker quarterback Taylor Martinez brought Nebraska back from a 3-score deficit on homecoming in 2011, and he did it yet again in 2012. Martinez and the Husker offense scored 20 unanswered points in the second half to take a 30-27 lead with 9:41 left in the game. But in the closing minutes, it was the Husker defense that finished the job.
O'Brien takes the snap, going to hand off the ball, and he's going to be hit in the backfield and taken down. There's actually a fumble on the play, and Nebraska recovers. That's Harvey Jackson on the recovery, and the Huskers should get out of this one with a win.
That sealed the deal for Nebraska as they erased a 17-point deficit to beat Wisconsin 30-27, the second largest comeback in school history. In 2013, Illinois had their chance to play Nebraska on homecoming. Taylor Martinez was out with an injury, but quarterback Tommy Armstrong and the Husker offense put the Illini away after Kenny Bell's jaw-dropping one-handed touchdown reception that gave Nebraska a 36-12 lead. Nebraska beat Illinois 39-19, giving the Huskers a 5th straight win on homecoming. This year, Illinois has a chance to redeem themselves as they play the Huskers during UNL homecoming for the 2nd straight year. Illinois coach Tim Beckman feels that his team will be ready to play in the hostile homecoming environment.
I'm very, very proud of the way this team's fighting. There is no give up. They're fighting to the end. You're going to have to respond to Lincoln just like you'll have to respond anywhere really in this conference.
For Husker Countdown, I'm Tommy Rezach.
Stick around. More pregame coverage is next on the University of Nebraska's radio station, 90.3 KRNU.
My name is Dale Pazinski, and this is how I live united. I volunteer with United Way, helping the homeless in my community by teaching computer skills and helping them build a basic resume to save on their very own USB drive. It's huge when somebody says, "Hey man, that job that you helped me apply for, I got it." My name is Dale Pazinski. I help people achieve financial independence. so I don't just wear the shirt, I live it.
Give, advocate, volunteer. Live United. Go to liveunited.org. Brought to you by United Way and the Ad Council.
Now back out to Memorial Stadium for more of the Husker Countdown pregame show, live on 90.3 KRNU.
Welcome back to Lincoln. We are now under 45 minutes and counting until kickoff here of the Nebraska homecoming game against the Illinois Fighting Illini, featuring alternate jerseys for both sides. Let's get to the Husker offense and Sidney Boyd, after 4 games. How does this offensive line look coming into tonight's contest?
You know, I think they look strong, and they definitely have some depth. I think they need to focus on staying healthy and injury-free, as well as gaining some consistency to get to where they want to be starting in this conference play.
Hunter, Nebraska 5th in the country right now in rushing, and in fact, they are 8th overall in total offense in average yards per game. What's the significance behind that?
Well, it really helps when you play a defense like Florida Atlantic, that's for sure. But Nebraska's combined rushing output in the first 4 games of the season is their best through 4 games since 2000. So obviously this isn't just a strange happening. This is something that is really a big deal for this Cornhusker team. Amir Abdullah obviously having a great year. He's actually looking to become the first player in Nebraska history with 3 1,000-plus yards in 1,000-plus yard seasons. He's obviously has 625 yards thus far through 4 games, on pace for over 2,000 yards on the season. That's pretty impressive.
Easily do it this season for those 1,000 yards.
Easily surpass Mike Rozier for the most rushing yards.
Yeah, it's certainly possible.
Or in a career.
It's certainly possible, and of course we'll be watching that all throughout the season here. Brent, Tommy Armstrong, Sidney pointed out, growing pains, but he is growing as a quarterback. We asked last week if we think he's an underrated dual threat quarterback. What still needs to be done on his part to be that true top of the line dual threat quarterback?
He's got to work on his accuracy, first of all. When Armstrong misses, he misses badly. He's had too many overthrows already this season than a quarterback of his talent should have. And then also you mentioned being a dual threat runner. He needs to work on his decision making when running the read option with Amir Abdullah. Hunter, you mentioned it in the Miami game. It seems like Armstrong reads all but one guy on the field when he keeps the ball, and that's typically the guy that makes the play on him. And of course we've seen him have success, but also we've seen him make some bad decisions. So accuracy in the passing game, try to limit the overthrows and those bad misses. And when he's running the ball, just read the defense better, make some better decisions, and he'll be vastly improved.
Sidney, the strength of the wide receivers, that's kind of been, it's been tested throughout this season, yet they have still come together really well as a unit. How impressive is this group?
I think they're a very impressive group. Sophomore wide receiver Jordan Westerkamp, he is a powerhouse. And, last weekend against Miami, you didn't see a whole lot from him, but I think tonight he's going to be a force to be reckoned with again. He proves himself every time he's out on the field, and I think he's a really big asset for Nebraska.
Hunter, overall, any glaring issues on this side of the football moving forward?
It's really difficult to find any glaring issues with an offense that averages 45.5 points per game thus far in the season. They're looking to have 30 points or more in the first 5 games, and only the second time in 19 seasons. Very impressive. It'll be important for them to maintain their efficiency on offense. They only have 3 turnovers thus far. 2 of them are accounted for by Tommy Armstrong. I feel like Tommy Armstrong needs to be careful when he's scrambling outside of the pocket. When he's got a designed run, he's a very strong runner. But when he scrambles, when a pass play breaks up and he tries to pick up yards on the ground, he's very ineffective at holding on to that ball in that situation.
Brent, quickly here, we all know Amir Abdullah, starting running back, doing his job, doing great,
right.
Things of that nature. What about Amani Cross and Terrell Newby? How much of them are we going to be able to see tonight in this game if it turns into an Illinois blowout, essentially?
Well, of course, I think you see Amani Cross first. I think you see him anyway, even if the game is tight and early on. Amani Cross is a guy that they like to bring in for a change of pace. Newby is more similar to Abdullah in their running styles, more of the shifty, quicker guys. Of course, you want a bruiser like Amani Cross, especially down by the goal line. So we'll see what happens. Amir proved he can handle a 35 carry load against a good defense like Miami. And they may not put those guys in much at all unless Abdullah needs a break. And I think it was you, Hunter, as we were walking over here, said even when Amir pats his helmet, that's a sign that he's tired, he needs to come out. Sometimes Bo Pelini and the coaching staff will say, nope, you stay in. And it's worked out for him so far. So I don't think we see much change.
I don't think that Amir Abdullah being in contention for the Heisman makes any effect on the amount of carries he's going to get. I think you saw in the Fresno State game, especially going into the fourth quarter, Amir Abdullah did not play very much. It was mostly Amani Cross and Terrell Newby. Also in the Florida Atlanta game, he sat out most of the third quarter and all of the fourth quarter. I know that this team would rather see him healthy for the entire season than see him put up 40, 50 carries in a game to try to pad stats for a Heisman race.
Let's take a look at Amir Abdullah's numbers right now. He sits third all-time on the career rushing yards list. He is behind Amon Green, who sits at 3,880. Abdullah is at 3,602. So roughly less than 300 yards needed to become second all-time. Of course, Mike Rozier is at 4,780. And Amir Abdullah, if he continues his 100 rushing yard games and adds on to that more than 100 yards, it could be possible that Amir Abdullah passes Mike Rozier and that 4,780 total yards on the all-time rushing yards list at Nebraska. It's possible. It's going to be a challenge. But, of course, that has basically been the story of Amir Abdullah's career here at Nebraska. 20 100-yard rushing games, as Hunter said. He only needs 7 more to become the all-time leader, passing Mike Rozier, who has 26 100-yard rushing games. 3 1,000 back-to-back-to-back 1,000-yard rushing seasons, actually, what Hunter said. And, of course, Abdullah easily will break that this year, barring an injury. All-purpose yards, he is now the all-time leader at Nebraska, 5,762. Receptions by a running back, he sits fourth on the all-time list. Corey Ross is in third with 71. Kickoff return yards, sitting fourth, and could easily pass Tyrone Hughes from the 89 to 92 season. He has 1,443. Abdullah has 1,315. We'll take a break, come back with Brent Bonfleur and a look at Bo Pelini's foe side, and not the F-O-E spelling either. That's next here on the Husker Countdown pregame show on 90.3 KRNU.
Don't go anywhere. Husker Countdown returns on the other side of the break on 90.3 KRNU and online at krnu.unl.edu.
Start something big. Create potential. Make an impact.
At Big Brothers Big Sisters of America, you're the difference in a brighter, more promising future.
Become a big today.
It's easy. Just call 464-2227. Don't wait. Join the hundreds of mentors that have made a big change to your community. Calling Big Brothers Big Sisters of America at 464-2227, you not only support the Big Brothers Big Sisters organization, but also lead others on a path to do big things.
Now, back out to Memorial Stadium for more of the Husker Countdown pregame show on 90.3 KRNU.
For Husker Countdown, I'm Brent Bonfleur. Husker football fans have many ways to describe head coach Bo Pelini. After a leaked audio tape surfaced last September of Pelini denigrating not only the local sports media, but fans and students as well,
they can all kiss on the way up, because the day is coming now. Let's see what they can do.
likable may not have been one of them.
It's easy to point fingers and stand outside and and throw stones. So I just take it for what it is.
All that being said, so anybody got a big rock? Maybe Bo Pelini would like to crawl under it.
But since that point, Pelini has made major strides in rehabilitating his tarnished public image. Husker fans are familiar with the excitement Nebraska's Tunnel Walk pump-up song brings to Memorial Stadium. But as Pelini led his team onto the field in the 2014 Red-White Spring Game, there was, perhaps, another tune that would have fit the moment even better. After months of back and forth with the popular Twitter parody account in his likeness, Pelini hoisted the token Bo Pelini fluffy cat above his head, just as Rafiki lifted Simba in The Lion King, and to massive applause from the Husker crowd. While some perceptions of Pelini bring to mind a gruff, vulgar, red-faced spit machine, the man who guides the state's most beloved sports franchise has had several moments, many private, where he has displayed a softer side. Last August, as the Huskers were preparing for their season opener against Wyoming, Pelini surprised the team in a most unusual way. During a team meeting, fifth-year defensive lineman Thad Randall's cell phone rang, seemingly interrupting Pelini in the middle of a speech. Pelini, in faux rage, stormed out of the room, returned with a hammer, and smashed Randall's phone on the ground. Randall then stormed out of the room, followed by Pelini. The rest of the team sat in sheer silence, until a commotion, which sounded very much like a fight breaking out, came from the other room. Just as players got out of their seats to intervene, a message from Bo came up on the projector screen at the front of the room. "Got ya," it said, as Pelini came back into the room, led his team out of their final practice, and took them to a movie instead. After a practice this August, Pelini made another move to win back the affections of Husker fans, and support a charitable cause at the same time.
Challenge, I guess, to the ice bucket. Ooh. Let's get it over with.
Not only did Pelini get doused in ice-cold water, but, in classic faux Pelini style, challenged several others to do the same.
I want to challenge on ALS. I want to challenge Indomitian Sue, Dan Whitney, Larry the Cable Guy. Oh, I want to challenge faux Pelini. And I challenge all head high school football coaches in the city of Lincoln.
Of course, the most endearing moment Pelini has engineered in his 6 years at Nebraska was when he allowed a 9-year-old boy, Jack Hoffman, who suffers from pediatric brain cancer, to take a handoff from then Husker quarterback Taylor Martinez and gallop 69 yards to the end zone, a moment that wound up winning an ESPY Award for Best Sports Moment.
As Jack Hoffman, a young man that, as I mentioned, has really been adopted by this football team, just scored a touchdown.
Oh, wow. What a moment. That was a moment right there. Wow. Goosebumps.
So the question is out there, as the Huskers take the field against Illinois this week. Will Husker fans see the Pelini who screams at officials and waves his hat? Or will they see the Pelini who gives a little boy, a football team, and an entire state something to cheer about? For Husker Countdown, I'm Brent Bonfleur.
More Husker Countdown is coming up on your home for Nebraska football, 90.3 KRNU.
Hi everyone, I'm Ryan Swanigan. Join me every Friday night from 7 to 10 p.m. for the final year of Jazzy Vibes. The 3-hour program will feature all sorts of great jazz, starting with 2 upbeat hours, followed by the calmer, more relaxing jazz to close out the night. So tune in Friday nights at 7 for Jazzy Vibes, only on 90.3 KRNU and krnu.unl.edu.
Don't go anywhere. Husker Countdown returns on the other side of the break on 90.3 KRNU and online at krnu.unl.edu. Let's return to Memorial Stadium with more Husker Countdown pregame coverage. Live on 90.3 KRNU and online at krnu.unl.edu.
Welcome back to Lincoln. Ryan Swanigan, Brent Bonfleur, and Tommy Rezach with you all here as now we move to the defensive side of the football. Brent, how impressive has this defensive line been as these first non-conference games have gone by?
Well, as a unit, they've played pretty well. Of course, Husker fans, they probably want to see a little more statistically wise, especially in sacks from guys like Randy Gregory. But, sometimes it's good when a position group has such a standout player like Randy Gregory. He takes a lot of the attention, a lot of the heat, and it opens up plays for other guys to step up and get some stuff, get some good sacks, some stats. And, that can benefit a team more so than just one guy going in and tearing it up. But overall, as a unit, they appear they're much better than they were last year.
Right.
And it seems like they've been improving this year just a little bit every game. So definitely on the up and up for the Nebraska defensive line.
Tommy, the linebackers, obviously they are still struggling. Why is that?
Well, I said it in week one that senior Zaire Anderson has to be a leader for these guys, and he has been. Anderson's been one of the top tacklers on this team with 18 total stops. But you got Josh Banderas. He's a sophomore. He's still young, still inexperienced, still missing some assignments. David Santos, his very memorable and odd Fresno State safety, but now Santos dealing with injury this week. But he did show potential against Miami, so I think you're seeing some signs of improvement, what he was able to do against the Hurricanes. But I think the injury of Michael Rose, that might be hurting as well. That was a big negative to start the year on, that injury. And then you got guys off the bench like Courtney Love and Marcus Newby. They're freshmen. They're young. They're inexperienced. They don't have big-time experience. So I think they need to continue to learn from Zaire Anderson, who's just been a bright spot for this defense. And if they can kind of learn from his ways, learn from his work ethic and craft, I think this linebacking core can continue to make improvements.
We should quickly take a quick break away from the defensive talk here and note the Nebraska helmets. I just now am looking down here in the field. They are not shiny. They are that rugged, rough,
matte.
Really no reflection type helmets. Where Illinois is, of course, they're like Michigan State's last year when the Spartans were in town. Very shiny, everything reflecting off of them. Kind of interesting to see. I did not think that Nebraska's helmets were actually really like that, but. I think that is kind of a cool aspect, if I may add.
Yeah, the only dome down there that's shining right now is Ron Brown's.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, well
Shiniest
said.
thing on the field.
Well said. And Brent, let's move now back to the defensive notes. The secondary concerns after last week.
Well, anytime a team secondary gets torched for over 300 yards, especially by a guy whose role has traditionally been as a backup like Brad Kaya, there is cause for concern. Keep in mind, though, aside from that opening drive where they had the 7-0 lead, Miami trailed for the majority of that game. So Brad Kaya is throwing more than he might have been had the score been different. You got Nebraska's two defensive captains, Corey Cooper and Josh Mitchell. I think they've both taken that responsibility seriously, and their play has shown it. And anytime your main guy, your best players are performing well, you've got to feel good as a defensive coordinator. I don't think John Papuchis is worried about a secondary too much, even though they're going up against a fairly proficient passing attack like Illinois.
Tommy, any glaring issues on this side of the ball moving forward for this Husker defense?
Well, it was kind of a concern after the Miami game, giving up 360 yards to quarterback Brad Kaya. We've only forced, 3 turnovers on the year?
5.
5, excuse me. And but overall, as far as fundamentals go and getting after the football, we're doing an all right job. 213 yards of passing given up only 116 yards given up on the ground. So as far as overall fundamentals and tackling goes, I think it's been pretty good, but still some room for improvement. We need to see guys like McMullen and Ballantyne get sacks, and we need to see guys like Josh Kalu, Nate Gary, as they did last week, force those turnovers. Josh Mitchell as well, pick up some fumbles, get some sacks, interceptions, just make a difference when you're on the field, and just other basic things, 3 and outs, getting off the field. We haven't seen that much this year, so yeah, just nose to the grindstone defense and play aggressive.
Brent, how impressive were you with Drew Brown last week with kickoff duties?
Well, with kickoff duty, there are 3 things you ask from a kicker. 1, he makes extra points after touchdowns. 2, he hits field goals within 40 yards. And 3, he kicks touchbacks. And Drew Brown has done all those things. Miami barely got to take the ball out of their own end zone last week, and that can really demoralize a team, especially a team that's down, when they can't ever start past the 25-yard line. So Drew Brown stepping into that role well. The role obviously vacated by Mauro Bondi, who was in the motorcycle accident. We'll see how the dynamic shifts when Bondi comes back, but for now, Drew Brown doing a good job.
Tommy, Bo trying some different people on the kickoff returns here? I think, yeah, he's done a great job of kind of mixing it up. We've seen DeMornay Pearsonell returning punts. We've seen Kenny Bell back deep. We've seen Amir Abdullah back deep. I want to see Jordan Westerkamp again. I know he had his problems returning punts last year, but Westerkamp is arguably the fastest guy on this team. Just get those speedy guys returning kickoffs. And if you want Amir Abdullah to stand out among Heisman contenders, send him back deep more often and let him take a kick back to the house. He did so against Fresno in 2011, so maybe he could do it again.
Georgia's Todd Gurley did that himself. Georgia's letting him take back kickoffs, and he took one to the house. I can't remember which game that was, but good point, Tommy.
In conclusion, I like what Pelini's doing. Keep mixing up between Pearsonell, Bell, Abdullah, Westerkamp. All your speed guys need to get in there for some kickoff returns. Huskers, we talked about what Illinois is wearing for jerseys. The Huskers, red helmets with the black on the bottom backside of those helmets. Red tops, red pants, a shiny, what looks from up here gray, but they're actually black. It's a really shiny black numbering and letters, and some very shiny, almost burnt orange looking shoes from at least up here. They're probably red, but at least from our angle, they look the exact same color as the Illinois Fighting Illini shiny helmets. We'll take a break, and when we come back, Sidney Boyd will discuss Randy Gregory and the fight that he has had this season, but now finally after a Miami game coming on strong, Sidney will have all the comments and whatnot on Randy Gregory. Coming up next here on the Husker Countdown pregame show on 90.3 KRNU.
Stick around. More pregame coverage is next on the University of Nebraska's radio station, 90.3 KRNU.
Welcome back to the Dog Show. Up next, we have Satchmo. Satchmo is a member of the Shelter Pet Group.
That's right, a group known especially for their couch-snuggling, ball-chasing, face-licking, and, of course, companionship. Now, let's see him in action.
Look how he makes eye contact with his person.
That's actually known as the treat stare.
How intuitive, and now he appears to be excitedly turning in circles.
Ah, the happy dance so common with this group.
But really, the best way to know an amazing shelter pet like Satchmo is to meet one.
Visit theshelterpetproject.org today. Adopt.
Brought to you by Maddie's Fund, the Humane Society of the United States, and the Ad Council.
From the press box at Memorial Stadium, here's more of the Husker Countdown pregame show on 90.3 KRNU.
For Husker Countdown, I'm Sidney Boyd. From his intimidating 6'6" frame to the insurance policy he signed before the season, it's easy to see why Husker Randy Gregory has next-level potential. But after his return from a knee issue these past 2 weeks, Gregory has shown on the field why he is so crucial to Nebraska's defense. And with conference play kicking off today, the Huskers will need Gregory to keep working his way back to dominance if they hope to compete for a Big Ten West title. Gregory started the season playing just one drive in the win over Florida Atlantic before a knee scope left him sidelined for the Huskers' win over McNeese State. Since his return, though, Gregory has affected the way both Fresno State and Miami attack the Husker defense, while his ability to get to quarterback in key moments has been big for Nebraska. Despite not making much of an impact early in last week's win over Miami, Gregory was in the heads of the Miami offensive linemen seemingly from the first snap, as the Hurricanes' adapted blocking schemes sent multiple bodies Gregory's way, and even tried to rile up the junior by getting physical away from the ball and after the whistle. Yet it was Gregory who had the last laugh, sacking Miami's quarterback for a loss of 10 yards on the first play of the fourth quarter and forcing a field goal that limited the Hurricanes' comeback chances. With a versatile Illinois offense coming to Memorial Stadium for Nebraska's Big Ten opener, Gregory will be key for upsetting quarterback Wes Lunt and the rest of the Illini attack. In his press conference on Monday, Bo Pelini was quick to praise Lunt's potential, but also acknowledged Nebraska and Gregory had a chance to get to Lunt if they forced him to rely on his athleticism instead of his ability to throw the ball.
I don't know if the first guy brought him down all night. And, you know, like I said, I've been around a lot of football, and I don't know, I don't remember many times you can say that. I mean, he continues to show why he is who he is, and he stepped up. And
Gregory has just 5 solo and 5 assisted tackles this season, but has dropped quarterbacks for a loss of 25 yards in his 2 sacks, showing his ability to change the game with his pressure. He even nearly put the cherry on top of Nebraska's win over Miami by forcing a fumble late, but the Hurricanes were able to beat Malik Collins to the loose ball and minimize the damage caused by Gregory's pressure in the backfield. So far this season, Illinois has surrendered 10 sacks in 4 games, as Gregory and company will look to add to that total when the Illini come to Memorial Stadium tonight. Perhaps the key to Nebraska's ability to get to the quarterback, though, is the Nebraska's ability to force obvious passing situations, and that means stopping Josh Ferguson. Ferguson is averaging 6.3 yards per catch coming into today's game, and nearly 10 yards per catch out of the backfield, which will force Gregory and the rest of Nebraska's front 7 to be aware of the Illini star back at all times. But if the Huskers are able to keep Ferguson in check, look for Gregory and the NU front 4 to come after Lunt, especially if Nebraska is able to get an early lead and force Illinois to try and keep up with the potent Husker attack. For Husker Countdown, I'm Sydney Boyd.
Stick around. More pregame coverage is next on the University of Nebraska's radio station, 90.3 KRNU.
Participating in on-campus activities is the best way to liven up your college experience. Student involvement is the vibrant hub of involvement on campus, connecting and serving the UNL community. Student involvement sponsors awesome events for students, including the Second Chance Cinema, guest speakers, and parties at the Union. Visit involved.unl.edu to find their upcoming event schedule, or follow them on Twitter at UNLinvolved and like them on Facebook to get updates right on your social stream. Don't sit around in your dorm all night. Let student involvement show you a good time.
From the press box at Memorial Stadium, here's more of the Husker Countdown pregame show on 90.3 KRNU.
Welcome back to Lincoln. Ryan Swanigan, Brent Bonfleur, Hunter Cave, and Sidney Boyd with you. We do want to make an announcement here. There have been conflicting reports about quarterback Wes Lunt. We are, at least Steve Sipple of the Lincoln Journal-Star just tweeted out that the BTN crew informed Riley O'Toole is Illinois starting quarterback. The same thing is also being reported by the Big Ten Network in general, that Wes Lunt is out of the game with an unspecified injury, though he was announced as the starting quarterback here on the video board at Memorial Stadium. So again, that's where we stand. We don't know who's starting. It could be either Riley O'Toole, or Wes Lunt. We'll find out basically when the game starts. But again, conflicting reports about who is the starting quarterback here for the Illinois Fighting Illini. And with that, let's get to our offensive players to watch for this game. Brent Bonfleur, you're up first.
Oh, Riley O'Toole for Illinois. We thought we might see him in a backup role, or maybe for at least part of the time. Now it sounds like potentially he could play the whole game, and it's never good when you go a whole week and then your starting quarterback changes at the last second. Riley O'Toole, my player to watch.
Hunter?
Amir Abdullah. He is currently 7 rushing attempts behind Eric Crouch for second all-time, 27 behind Mike Rozier. For a player who averages 24 carries a game so far this year, watch for him to possibly break that career rushing attempts records.
Sidney Boyd.
I'm going to say Tommy Armstrong.
Yeah, go ahead.
I'm going to say, Tommy Armstrong. I think it's going to be a big game for him as far as his consistency goes and what he brings out to the field today.
Sidney, let's start with you. Defensive player to watch in this game.
Banderas. He's been a little shaky, and I'm not sure how he's going to do tonight.
Hunter?
Keep an eye on Randy Gregory. He makes big plays in big situations, like Sydney said in her piece. And what bigger game than homecoming for Nebraska?
Brent?
Going to go with Marcus Newby. We talked about him a little bit in the pregame, see if he gets some snaps tonight. He's a young guy, lots of talent. We'll see if he gets on the field.
We'll take a break for the national anthem, and we will come back with the predictions, 4 scores from all of us here at the KRNU Sports Staff.
That is next here on the Husker Countdown pregame show on 90.3 KRNU and krnu.unl.edu.
Stay tuned. Husker Countdown will return after this break on Nebraska's student radio station 90.3 KRNU.
Join 90.3 KRNU every Sunday morning for Campus Voices, a public affairs feature that focuses on issues, events, and people from around the University of Nebraska-Lincoln. I'm Ford Clark, and I'll take you inside UNL. My guests will include decision makers at UNL, professors, and former students who are going to new places, studying interesting topics, and doing cool stuff. That's Campus Voices, Sundays at 10 a.m. on 90.3 KRNU.
Welcome back to the Cat Show. Up next, we have Nico. Nico is a member of the Shelter Pet Group.
That's right. A group known especially for their sunspot sleeping, ball chasing, leg rubbing, and of course, companionship. Just look how she struts.
It's like she owns the place.
And see how she curls up and cuddles her person.
The pitch on her purring is simply perfect.
Nice one.
Fantastic cat. But really the best way to know an amazing shelter pet like Nico is to meet one.
Visit theshelterpetproject.org today. Adopt.
Brought to you by Maddie's Fund, the Humane Society of the United States, and the Ad Council.
The next Mayor Rietma Ross Media Arts Center's movie countdown has begun. UNL's Ross Media Center presents a variety of movies, videos, films, and documentaries. The Ross doesn't only offer you an alternative to commercial film and television fare, but also a time to sit back and enjoy the creative art of cinema. So take a break or go on a date at the Mary Rietma Ross Media Arts Center. For showtimes, visit the Ross Media Arts Center's website, theross.org. That's theross.org.
Now back out to Memorial Stadium for more of the Husker Countdown pregame show, live on 90.3 KRNU.
Welcome back to Lincoln. Ryan Swanigan, Brent Bonfleur, Hunter Cave, and Sydney Boyd, as well as Tommy Rezach, all with you. We will get now to our scores for this game. I will start first. I'm going to say Nebraska 45. And Illinois either led by Riley O'Toole or Westland, scoring at 23 points. Sydney Boyd?
I'm going to go with 45-17 Huskers.
All right. Brent Bonfleur?
Wow, similar scores. I'm going to go 45 Nebraska, Illinois 21.
Hunter Cave?
You see, I was struggling with this score. Talked to my dad yesterday, and the one thing he told me was, it's a sandwich game, Hunter. It's a sandwich game. Last week we played Miami. Next week we play Michigan State. Who's caring about Illinois? I'm questioning if the Huskers are. So I'm going to say 28-21 Nebraska.
Ooh, all right. How about that? Tommy Rezach?
I have to disagree with Hunter. I think Nebraska's offense will take care of business. Amir Abdullah going to have another big game against an overall weak Illinois defense. Nebraska wins easily 52-24.
Current conditions here in Lincoln, it is clear, though it is dark. It is 74 degrees, a gorgeous night for football. A southeast wind blowing into North Stadium at about 11 miles per hour. And really, of course, the forecast is blank because it's dark, but we are expecting a very nice night for football here at Memorial Stadium. That is going to do it for the Husker Countdown pregame show. We will be back with you at postgame for a recap, of course, of this matchup between Nebraska and Illinois. Casey and Connor are coming up next with the play-by-play and color right here on 90.3 KRNU. For now, this has been the Husker Countdown pregame show on 90.3 KRNU and online at krnu.unl.edu. We'll be right back with the matchup of Nebraska and Illinois right after this break.
This is your home for University of Nebraska Cornhusker football. 90.3 KRNU, Lincoln.